Let me just jump in with kind of the hot topic of, the last year or so, the pandemic. How has it been affecting you guys, and how did it end up affecting the recording of this new album?
Of course, the pandemic has been awful for, I think, every musician in the world. And I will say that in Denmark, we've been very lucky because the government was very fast closing it down. So up to the studio, we only have a little bit problem with the singer, Michael, because he lives in another part of Denmark. And at one time, it wasn't allowed to go from one part to Denmark to another part. So we were delayed, I think, 1 week or 2 weeks. So it was to live with, the 4 guys of us all lived in the area of Copenhagen, so it was not a big problem for us. But of course, pandemic hasn't been very good. We wasn't allowed to play. They start starting to get open for the concerts now, so we are going to play the 6th and 7th of May. So it seems to be right back now.
Wow, 6th and 7th, that's coming right up. Are you pretty excited about that?
Yeah, very much, because as we played, last time we played was a tour to Asia back almost nearly 1.5 years now. So we're really looking forward to play live. So we love it so much, just waiting and waiting. So we're looking forward to that.
That's awesome. I hope it goes well. I'm kind of curious, everybody has been, on lockdown and just had like more time with things. And it's kind of a once in a lifetime thing, the pandemic. So have you come out of this like with any like different perspective on the world, or any like, any revelations that have come up?
I would say, of course, the pandemic had changed a lot of things, because you have been much more careful in you was before, really watching out, to take care of washing your hands and take, the things for the mouth and stuff like that. And and of course, it's changed things you look at it. But I'm also think there were some good things in it, because the pollution and stuff like that have maybe gone a bit down, So I always try to see the positive side on it, and you also got more time with your family, for example, than you normally have. And someone want to go more out and be together all the time, But for me, I have a good time there. And I've been home some of the time and listened to a lot of music. I couldn't have time to when I was working all the time, and go out to play so much, So I also try to get the positive things in it, even if it's difficult in this Corona times.
So I saw you guys work with Søren Andersen again to produce a new album.
Yeah, he's a splendid guy in the studio. He's also a very good musician to play with. Kræn Hughes from the old bass player, Deep Purple, he's very good in the studio, a very good producer, and he always listens to what you have to say. And you have some, if I say to him, "Can you make the guitar sound like this?" or "I want the solo maybe to sound a bit like this," and he's really cool at that and really good to work on that. And he is also a good friend, and he really loves good jokes, so he's a good man.
That's awesome. The sound on this new album is amazing. Like, I think you guys have always had pretty good production, in the last, however many albums, but this one I think is just like top notch. How did you guys originally hook up with him in the first place, like way back when?
It was I learned to know him through our old singer Søren Adamsen, who was on When Dead Comes and My Blood albums. He knew him, and when we reunited in 2007, we were talking about studio. We knew Flemming Rasmussen from Sweet Silence, good. We knew Jacob Hansen from the studio in Ribe, and there was always talking about it. And then Søren said, why don't we try to talk to him, because Metal Studio is just around our corner, and we took out and talked to him, and he was very good, and I listened really what he said. And he said to me, "I really want to do things like that, because I always did a lot of hard rock, I never really do real fast metal or good metal like this kind of way you play." And I think it was been a good opportunity to learn some new also. So we try to say, okay, we can do the album and see how it works, and it works perfectly, very good, And every album we had made with him just got better and better in production. So why stop now?
Right. That's awesome. Did you guys do anything in particular different with this album as far as the production goes?
No, not really. But we always, have a lot of ideas we try out. I know we worked really hard on the guitar sound, even more than we did on the last album, and I'm really, really, really proud of that guitar sound we got up to. And we also tried some small different things in the mixing phase on the drums, for example. But basically, it was the same kind of a way that we used to do, because you never change a winning team too much,
Yeah. How do you guys go about songwriting, and has that changed much, like over the course of the band?
Yeah, of course, it changed a bit in this album because my brother was no longer here, and Kræn, the new guitar player, also get up with some good songs, and this was a different way to work on. And we normally did. I'm sure on the next album we will work a lot more together than we did on this album. But I really think we supported each other good and got some good songs, and good variation in the kind of songs. This album is really made by the vision of what I really want to hear myself and what they want to hear by themselves. So that's very close to, when I go down and put a CD on my own record player, we have a lot of melodic thrash elements in, but we also have a lot of, like Rainbow, for example, as you had on your chest. It's inspiring, from the bands from the 70s and 80s, also put stuff in there, a lot of Black Sabbath things and stuff. We always try to have that in mind also, to keep it very varied and tasteful for people, who also can listen to not only fast all the time, but also want some melodic things in it also. So that's the kind of way, and we have a singer who can sing some of those things. So why not try that?
Right. Yeah. That's one of the songs that really stood out for me was The Ghost of Me, and that one reminds me a lot of kind of like the classic metal and even like Scorpion, some of that kind of vibe in there. And I love that variety. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and then as you said, one day I can listen to a Slayer. The next day I can hear Sabotage, for example, and then I go to Grand Funk Railroad. I can go to Total, and then Scorpions, and then back to Metallica. So I really like those difference, and a good song is very important in even if it's fast metal or it's more down to earth metal. So you have to have those hook lines and riffing, and then we really work hard to try to do what we really want to hear ourselves. So that I hope that people can hear that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think this might be my favorite album of Artillery's, which is saying something, because I mean the first three especially are, I grew up with those, so I love those. But just the songs on this album are just so strong, like and so diverse, like you were saying.
Thanks.
One thing you guys have always kind of incorporated, I think going back to like even By Inheritance, is kind of this Middle Eastern sort of melodies and some of the riffs. And I noticed that on like in Thrash We Trust and Silver Cross, a little bit of that. Can you tell me like where that influence came from?
Yeah, it was very funny because one of the first places Morten and me, my brother, listened to was Richie Blackmore from Rainbow. He has a lot of things in his riffing and doing things like that. And then we was playing in Russia near the border to Afghanistan, where they played a lot of Oriental sounded, stuff like that. We was on a train for 3 days and heard that kind of stuff all the time. And then we wrote Comaniac and Don't Believe on the train, And since then, it has kind of, we really love to play that puts that elements in it. Also a song like Vage Iveam, for example, have also that kind of intro, and we love to do things like that because it always sounds good, I think, to listen to that myself too. And if you could put that into the space of heaviness and stuff like that and make it work, then you have to do it.
Yeah, and it just really helps give you guys like that unique Artillery sound too, which is great. As far as the album title 10, I know it's your 10th album, but how did you guys end up settling on that for the title?
First of all, because it makes me really proud to have made 10 albums. If people back in the time 1982 have told me that you're going to make 10 albums, you're going to play in 65 countries, I will never have believed it. I was said, you're joking. But now I'm really proud of it, and they were obvious that we have to call that album for 10 or X, as what do you expect? An unknown thing,
Right.
So that's the way.
That's cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about the vocals. How much work do you guys put into like putting together? Because the choruses all seem to have a very strong like melody, and they seem like really well worked out. And how do you guys go around about arranging those and coming up with the melody lines?
So we're really working hard in the studio to get the best opportunity out of Michael, because Michael is a damn good singer, and he really can use a lot of the techniques and stuff to make good harmonies and stuff like that. And especially on chorus, it's always been my first, wish to have strong chorus, and that I have, of course, from the 70 bands I grew up with, and I really try to put those into that, and always try to say to Michael, try to do this here, and he's very good at that. And also the other guys in the band like the way to put the chorus on it. So yeah, I think it's very cool and good to have that catchiness in the music,
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I think, another thing that really kind of separates you guys from some of the other thrash bands out there too. The video you guys did for Turn Up the Rage was pretty cool. Where did you guys film that? And how did you go about selecting that for the first video?
We did it in a brewery. Attilo just made our first beer. So it was very obvious to do the video there behind all the kettles and stuff like that. And it was very funny, and we had a great time there. And that was obviously a very good choice to do there, because people really seem to love also getting an artillery beer. So yeah, I think that's really cool. We have a good friend who had done a lot of things working there.
How did you how did the beer come up? Like how was that?
It was because we had a merch girl who was really good to work with the things, and he called the brewery and asked them to say, is it a good idea to make an artillery beer? And on the brewery, there was a Brazilian girl who was really a lot into metal, Mariana, and she said, that's a good idea. Come out and let us taste the beer and decide how it should taste. And we was out there and tasting the beer, and we got maybe a little bit drunk, but we had a really fun time.
Nice. I saw you're going to be releasing another video on the day the album comes out. Can you tell me a little bit about what that one's going to be like?
It's a song called "In Your Mind." And it, as I said, will be out on the release date on the 7th of May. And it was recording in a town in Denmark, in Jylland, called Scandia, who was an old train factory who made the trains, and it was really a cool place to make it. Made outside, and it was still a little bit cold in Denmark, so we were frozen a little bit, but we got them warm. And I'm looking forward to hear what people are saying about that song. In Your Mind, because it also, I think, is a very catchy song, and I really hope that they're gonna like it. But look forward to that on the 7th of May.
Awesome. I want to go back and talk a little bit about your earlier albums. I know there's been many reissues over the years, and I'm curious, like, have you guys had any control over that, or like, who's even in charge of those early albums?
No, not really, because when you made album in the 80s. The musicians just really think about making an album, really didn't think so much about rights and stuff like that. And we really try to keep it under control, but there's a lot of things going on. And for example, by inheritance, they won't release it again. It's owned by Warner Bros. Now, and I can't understand why, because people are really asking for that album. Yeah. The two first album is going out in many different issues, and many times we even not hear about it, And if I say to them, at least you can send us a copy,
yeah.
They even don't think about that. That's strange. I think it's really strange. But after back, we really got things going there. So now they can do that, and we also on very good label like Metal Blade now, who's really taking care of the band and really want the best for the band.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. Yeah, it seems like a lot of bands from the 80s have that same story of like they have no control over it. They've never gotten any money for any of those records. That's really sad.
No, that's true.
I saw that you also have a couple of compilations out there of your early demos. Were you involved with those at all?
Yeah, we was involved with Metal Mind, who did a box set. And we have a local company in Denmark called Target Records who did reissues of our old demos. So that's really cool. We got a good deal there. So no problem there because we have the right for the demos. And
nice.
And Roadrunner or any others couldn't do anything about that.
Right.
So that's cool. And I think it's very cool to have them on vinyl too. And I know there's a lot of people who want to collect them just to have them,
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Were there any surprises when you went back and listened to that stuff again after so many years?
Yeah, there's always a lot of memories, of course, and sometimes when you hear some of the songs, you were thinking, "Oh, what was I doing there?" But yeah, you have to learn, and that's why after 10 albums you can look back and say, "Okay, I have learned a little bit."
When you guys first started out, thrash really wasn't even a thing at that time. I'm kind of curious, like, what was your, like, how aware were you of like what was going on, like in the Bay Area and like in Germany and stuff at that time?
Yeah, when we started to play, we sat down and we heard some songs, for example, "Fast as a Shark Could Accept," and we got very inspired by that and say, "Hey, we want to put some more tempo in the songs." And that time people call us like, "You are a Motorhead punk band," they said, because they didn't use the word thrash metal at all, Then in 1984, when Metallica released, and people started to call us thrash metal, and we were saying, "Are we playing thrash metal?" Okay, we didn't really know it, but I was very proud that we now was being thrash metal. That's cool. And I remember when we met Metallica first time, they also said to us, "You've been playing thrash a long time." Okay, but that was cool,
When did you meet Metallica? Like, what was that like?
We met them when they recorded By the Lightning in Denmark, and
Okay.
we had a rehearsal room together with Merciful Fate, and Merciful Fate was on tour, and Metallica came down and loaned their part of the rehearsal room, and they heard us play some songs and stuff, and Lars Ulrich had already checked our first demo from 1982 and said we were sounding like a fast Saxon and with the thrash elements. So that was really cool. We were very nice guys in the start. Cliff Burton was walking around with our T-shirts on and stuff like that. So that was really cool. Very nice guys.
That's cool to hear. Yeah, it's interesting that you guys kind of developed your own version of thrash metal, like kind of at the same time as everyone else. And you kind of all got the influences from, like Fast as a Shark and Motorhead and stuff. But I think that probably explains why you guys have kind of your unique sound too.
Yeah, also because we were Danes, at that time it was only Merciful Fate who played, really heavy stuff, and we wasn't like, for example, many German bands who have a lot of comparison, and played thrash metal, like Creator, Sodom, Destruction, and bands like that. They have a lot of bands in Germany at that time who plays this thrash metal. But in Denmark, there was no one. There was only Merciful Fate who plays the Fasersjag, and then on the other side there was bands like Pretty Mace, who was like in that time, was a very big difference between the kind of black bands, hard bands, and the more poppy bands.
Right.
And that was on that time, and we were really good friends with Pretty Mace, no doubt about that. But at that time, it was really, like two different kinds of metal, pop and metal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was going to ask about like what the scene was like back then, because here in America, like the only bands I was aware of from Denmark was Merciful Fate and Pretty Mace. Yeah. So I'm curious if there were any other bands. Like, how was it like getting shows like locally?
It was very difficult in the start. In the first 3 years, I think Artillery only played 30 shows and after we reunited in 2007, we play about 80 to 100 shows a year. So there's a big difference you can see. But we at that time we also had bands who the name was Evil, Wasted, Maltese Falcon, Witch Shores. Bands like those was not very, famous in other side in Denmark, but in Denmark they were okay names,
Mm-hmm.
So at that time we was kind of the black sheep of the family, the kind of music we played. Many of the other bands said to us, "What are you doing?" And we said, we just have fun, we just play, But that's how it is,
I think a lot of bands that are innovative like that kind of have to start out like in that where they're kind of by themselves. Yeah,
that's true.
So just to wrap up here, what do you guys have planned next? Obviously some shows coming up in May, but how about for the rest of the year?
The rest of the year, we have a lot of festivals, of course, we've already been moved to next year, but we have some festivals later in the autumn. Alcatraz in Holland, for example. We have a tour going on with American Violence and Exciter from Canada and Voivod in November, December. So I hope that will go on without the corona stop that, because that's still a long time too. And then we have a lot of shows also. We have some festivals in Germany, in Russia, in Italy, I think. We also have been playing one of the biggest festivals in Scandinavia, Sweden Open Air, but it's just moved to next year. So, but we will going to play as much as we can. Also hoping to get back to United States in 2022. We have some awful good times, played 2 shows, 2 tours in the United States, and we also played Marion Dead Fest. We played some cruises from Florida. So we hope to get back there. That's a big plan. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I hope you guys can make it over here. I'd love to see you. But that's all my questions. So thanks so much for chatting today, and good luck with everything. I'm really excited about this new album. I think it's really amazing work. It's definitely one of my favorite albums this year. So
thanks you very much, and thanks a lot for the support.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
And I will go home now and hear my Rainbow records. It just reminded me of them.
Definitely.
So take care, man. And
all right,
hope
you
to
too.
see you there.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.